No phone calls, no messages. Nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore. A professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks. Good afternoon and welcome to the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. Wow, the 15th of December already. We had a tough weekend, folks, so we'll get into some of those issues. Very violent and sad past few days. Let's do some housekeeping. To join the conversation, you can do that at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. That will get you into the studio for two-way talk and conversation today. Flying the board behind the glass. He'll do that. And we have our text line up and running at 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. Text that like you would any number. Appears on the screen here in the studio in real time as I broadcast from the palatial but not overly ostentatious studios here in Westborough, Massachusetts. And of course, the station does stream, like thousands of other radio stations do, to the TuneIn app 24/7, 365 days a year. And everything, all our shows are instantly loaded to our replay link on WCRNradio.com. So right after I or anyone else gets off the air, you can go to that replay link either by the schedule or by the host and listen to it. It's a full show. We'll be right there. You can even download it in an MP3 file if you'd like to for playback later. And this show is turned into a podcast, and you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, Google Play, Spotify, whatever your thing is there. And I am streaming to the station's Facebook page and YouTube channel, as well as my social media, Joe Mangi, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. So that would be Facebook X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and we do stream live to the Rumble channel, the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Rumble. So that's housekeeping. Plenty of ways to listen, plenty of ways to watch and subscribe to the show as well. Like I said, 508-871-7000 to get into the studio. Now, the thing is, we've had a pretty tough few days here, folks, and your feelings on it and what you would like to add to the conversation, you can do that at 508-871-7000. And we've had the Hanukkah Day shooting in Sydney, Australia, at Bondi Beach, and of course the situation at Brown University, and of course Rob Reiner's demise. This is a lot going on, but it actually the tragedy or bad news started in Syria, with the U.S. and Syrian officials, 3 Americans, 2 servicemen or service people, and a U.S. civilian who was an interpreter. They were killed in an attack near Palmyra, Syria. And during a meeting and engagement involving U.S. and Syrian security forces, U.S. officials attribute the Islamic State, ISIS, reporting indicates the assailant was a recent recruit in Syria's internal security forces who was suspected of ISIS ties, and he was killed during the incident. Now, Donald Trump publicly vowed retaliation. Well, hell of me surprised. This is not sitting well with the big guy on that. And Syrian authorities described the incident as serious security breach and announced follow-up operations, including arrest of ISIS-linked suspect as the investigation continues. Remember, last week also, about a week before this, 5 Syrian officials were killed in an ISIS-related attack. So the Syrian government is trying to eradicate ISIS as well, and now working with the United States government. And they're going after all the ISIS-related, and they're going after people who are affiliated with ISIS. They're rounding them up, and they may not have been active as of late, but there's always intelligence to gather and just simply shutting ISIS down in Syria. Now, the president's pledge of retaliation should be analyzed through lawful instruments here. Self-defense authorities, existing counter-ISIS mandates, rules of engagement, and Congress's war powers and oversight. rather than open-ended escalation. That's not how we do this. This will be done with the tools that are in the toolbox. And this isn't new. This has been going on a long time, folks, right? Now, if the shooter was embedded in partner forces, the core issue, and this seems to be the core issue in a lot of things we're dealing with today, right? And that's the vetting. And if they were able to embed ISIS into their internal security forces, that's a serious vetting issue. Now, counterintelligence and force protection, how the breach happened, what warning signs existed, where there were the red flags and where they were ignored, and what changes follow for any joint operations. The incident highlights the inherent trade-off by, the by with through campaigns, right? Local partners expand reach against ISIS, but infiltration risk can become the decisive vulnerability at the same time. So Syria's interior ministry has characterized the attack as a major breach and reported operations in the Badaya Desert with ISIS suspects in the aftermath. So what are we going to do? What's the U.S. going to do now? Well, U.S. officials attribute the attack, obviously, to ISIS. Note the shooter was engaged and killed by partner forces, and the U.S. Army investigating the incident and security breakdown. But in practice, deterrence and counterterrorism usually means rapid attribution, targeted action against identified ISIS cells and the planners, disruption of facilitation networks, and sustained pressure on safe haven quarters, paired with clear legal justification. Disruption of the facilitation networks and the safe haven quarters. Because none of these terrorist cells and organizations can exist for any length of time without the safe havens, without places to regroup, hide, train, and even recruit from. And of course, they need some kind of revenue source. They need some path for steady revenue and income to fund this. Iran has been funding terrorist organizations and satellite cells for a very long time. Of course, in the first Trump administration, they were nearly broke. And a lot of this stopped, did it not? But then, lo and behold, under the Biden administration, Iran was flush and rich again. Sanctions were lifted, cash was released, oil was able to be sold, meaning the restrictions were up, and all of a sudden they went from really crying uncle to hundreds of billions of dollars on hand. So there was clearly a reason and a method behind Donald Trump's bringing Iran to that. And he did that a lot with the Abraham's Accord and with surrounding Iran with deals and trade agreements with all the countries surrounding it, separating them. Now, this is the first U.S. casualty event reported since the post-Assad transition dynamics discussed in coverage. See, the context matters, but it should not be substitute for confirmed details of this particular attack. So the Syrians killed last week, AP reports the separate attack in Idlib that killed 4 Syrian security officers. Unclear linkage to the Palmyra shooting, but it is related, and there's pressure on Syria's security apparatus not to let this go any further. So a lot of the bad news this weekend, guys, actually started with the American soldiers and interpreter being killed on Saturday. And it just kept going. I mean, now we've got, yesterday, we all witnessed as this happened, the deadly Hanukkah attack on Bondi Beach. And this is now having the conversation about the rise in anti-Semitic incidences in Australia. Australia, though, is one of those nations, much like England, who you have to wonder, what the heck are they doing with these open borders, much like we were facing, and the tolerance, for some reason, of blatant anti-Semitic behavior and terrorist attacks. 508-871-7000. Let me just jump to the phones. Mark is waiting patiently. Hey, Mark, what say you?
Brown University. I gotta tell you, man, I'm watching the reports come in or not come in, and this whole story is getting curiouser and curiouser as the hours pass on. And I guess the perpetrator, the guy who really did the dirty deed, is still on the run. And the other guy who is that they never arrested him, I guess. He's just a person of interest, and they took him into some kind of protective custody while they questioned the bejesus out of him. And then 12 hours later, or whatever it is, they let him go. He's no longer a person of interest. Then they said they were not going to release his name, and then his name gets released. So whether he's guilty or innocent, his life is ruined. But meantime, the other guy is out gallivanting somewhere, and what are we going on, 48 hours later, and he's still on the run? You know how many cameras there are in downtown Providence around that Brownie? How many, whether they're private cameras or city cameras or police cameras or federal cameras, they're all over the bleeping place. And they asked the whoever is in charge of this Brown University School of Engineering building, which is supposed to need a pass key, from what I understand, to even enter the place. They say, Brown University says, well, we have no security cam video of the interior of the building when this took place. And the press is standing there dumbfounded, and they're saying, what is this you're giving? You have no security cam video? They got a little clip of him walking down a street.
Yeah. Mark.
That's it.
That's it. Mark, I got to hold you there because I'm against the clock on a hard break. But we'll continue with the Brown situation on the other side of this break. But we have to break. It's that time, folks, in this Monday edition. 508-871-7000. Hey, folks, back in 2 in 2. Stick with us.
Step into the magic of winter in Wooville, where Polar Park transforms into a sparkling holiday wonderland. Stroll through twinkling lights, meet Santa in his workshop, decorate cookies, and explore our Christmas tree village, each tree supporting local nonprofits. Bring the whole family for festive treats, music, and the spirit of the season in the heart of Worcester. Tickets on sale now at polarpark.com/Wooville. Don't miss the magic. Winter in Wooville happening this December at Polar Park.
Join us for the Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast, airing on this station. During each broadcast, Pastor Ray McMahon shares the truth of God's Word on the subject of the unbreakable covenant of marriage. You don't want to miss this opportunity to hear clear and concise biblical teachings on this subject. The Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast with Pastor Ray McMahon.
Join us for Jesus is Our Shepherd, Sundays at noon on AM 830 WCRN. When it's time to move, don't just move, Mighty Move. At Mighty Movers, they have been helping families relocate safely and affordably since 2017. Whether you're going across town or across state lines, their experienced crew brings muscle and the hustle to make your move stress-free and budget-friendly. They specialize in local and long-distance moves, from cozy apartments to big family homes. They handle it all with care, speed, and professionalism. Got a piano, gun safe, or hot tub? No problem. Their specialty moving services are designed for the heavy stuff most movers just won't touch. So why settle for basic move when you can move mighty? Call 978-793-6165 or visit mightymoversma.com, mightymoversma.com, and start your move the mighty way. Mighty Movers, moving you forward one mighty mile at a time. All right, folks, welcome back here to the second segment, Monday edition, Joe Mangiacotti Show, AM 830, WCRN, reminding you can join the conversation with the time we have left together at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Going into the break, Mark called about Brown, and obviously Brown is right here on the notes to talk about. So let's go to the Brown story right now. And Mark, you raised up great points. The number of cameras that have to exist on Brown University and in the city of Providence is going to be overwhelming. And the only video we have is from the back of this suspect turning the corner. But let's recap this for listeners. Authorities in Providence say that the shooter opened fire Saturday inside Brown University's, the engineering complex, Burris and Holly, killing 2 students, wounding 9, possibly 16. Seeing a different number there, depending what article I read, but at least 9 other students. Brown issued an active shooter alert and ordered people to shelter in place there before the lockdown was lifted. I saw some of the video someone who took in one of these classrooms they were locked down in, and you heard shots, but then you heard the police identifying they were police, telling them, of course, put their hands up. And the police have to do that because they got to make sure that an active shooter isn't among those people. So they need to see all their hands, identify them all as students, and get them to safety. So police initially detained this person of interest, as Mark was talking about, but later announced he would be released after investigators concluded that the evidence points in a different direction. Now, you do have to ask, obviously, did that mean they stopped actively investigating and looking while they had this person for hours on hours being questioned? Or did they assume there's a chance it's not the person? I don't know. Because these press releases are conferences that they aren't wonderfully informative, nor does the media seem to really drive in at a lot of stuff. So it's gone in a different direction, leaving the case without a confirmed suspect as of today. And officials say that they're working from surveillance footage and other leads and have increased police presence on and around the campus. While Brown canceled remaining classes and exams for the semester, obviously saying to students, you're done, no more, we're not doing the finals, go home, be with your family, we're done for the semester. And that makes sense. But Brown also is one of those places that has gone to they don't do grades at Brown. They do the pass-fail. That's it. That's another discussion. This is interesting because I think, Mark, to your point, that's the video that we have with hundreds, if not thousands, of cameras in that university in Providence. Now, I know that the Boris Holly engineering building is an older building. And Brown has it's a university with probably one of the most number of cameras on a campus, but older building, they didn't have a lot of cameras or don't have any cameras on the interior for some reason. And what you might have been hinting at, Mark, and I'm going to agree in this, if I was correct in what you were inferring, is it just doesn't seem like the people, both university people and sometimes the police, are being just forthright, factual with what's going on, that they filter it through a woke lens, whatever you want to call it, political correctness, wokeness, or something. And unfortunately, it's sad that police have been infested in the higher ranks and leadership with this attitude of being more cautious about, I don't know, bending towards a certain group or something than just doing their job, regardless of where the evidence and facts take you. And that's what the police should be at. But of course, they have to also take their direction from the mayors. And these mayors that are being elected in some of these cities, in my opinion, shouldn't really be holding their jobs, because they do take oaths when they take these jobs. Both the police chief and commissioners, as well as mayors and stuff, they take an oath, and part of it is upholding and defending the laws of not just the United States and the Constitution, but of this state and city they're in. But they seem to pick and choose sometimes. So what is the direction that the police get? Because when you watch these press releases, don't you feel like they're just not being forthright? That they're just not telling you. I mean, we've been dealing with this. They're afraid to describe a suspect if they're not middle height, middle weight, and white. Then they'll be happy to tell you exactly what they look like. But if they're a person of any color, or even if they have unique characteristics, certain tattoos or hair color, they leave that stuff out. And yet that's extremely germane to the description, is it not? So what is going on with this? I agree that it seems like this Brown University tragedy is lacking information at this point. That by now we should know much more, and a suspect not in custody. That out of all of the cameras in that area, really the only video that they had to release is and you assume it's a man by the gate, dressed in black, turning a corner. No front video footage of this person, no face. In that neighborhood they're walking, there's no ring camera, no security camera, no ATM camera on the corner, nothing. So either they have a lot more evidence and video evidence than they're letting us know, or the person is extremely lucky or extremely well prepared because they knew exactly where to walk and avoid cameras. I don't know. But the detention and release sequence is a reminder that early person of interest status is not guilt. The state's proof of burden is always the issue, not public certainty. But it would be a tragedy if the investigation came to a snail's pace or even stopped when they took this person into custody that turned out not to be the perpetrator. So again, person of interest status does not equal guilt. It literally means the title of the term, person of interest. That's all they are at that point. A targeted attack in an academic building during final tests, basic governance, threat recognition, rapid response, scene control, evidence handling, and interagency coordination, meaning the local police, state police, and federal, and even in this case, of course, campus police. They should all be working cohesively, very well together. And I never understood the turf mentality that agencies and police agencies get. That they get evidence and they sit on it because they want the caller, they want to make the arrest, they want to be instead of putting the apprehension of the perpetrator ahead of everything else. I never understood that, but again, that's probably another conversation. So the question, Ted, you wanted to add?
Yeah, I can explain it to you, Joe. Compensation makes the motivation. This is a pattern of the highly liberal organizations such as Brown University. And it's reminiscent of what happened in the FBI with regards to the January 5th pipe bomb investigation. Look the other way when it doesn't satisfy the people who are compensating you for your job. And Brown University has not just political influence in Providence, Rhode Island. It has financial influence in Providence, Rhode Island. So if somebody in the police department or in the police department of Brown University is holding back information for some purpose, I'm certain it has something to do with compensation.
And that's the part that's just, it really is disgusting, folks, because, again, I go back to my earlier statement. What's important is the apprehension and prosecution and justice of the perpetrator of a horrific crime like this. Not political correctness, not wokeness, not offending. It turns out whoever is the perpetrator of this shooting at Brown University, they are who they are. Whatever race they are, gender they are, whatever their political beliefs are, and whatever their motivation was, it is what it is. How you cover this story doesn't change what happened and who did it. And to try to censor or filter or even justify the reasoning behind it is absolutely ludicrous. And then it brings us, and we have to wonder about the information, the discipline versus the rumor here. So with no named suspect, the key public interest metric is confirm the facts. Where and when, the casualties, the suspect description. Yeah, from that video, but it's so hard for me. I don't know about you. What say you? 508-871-7000. The only video that they have of this possible suspect is that one of the dark-clad person turning a corner in the neighborhood around Brown. I don't buy it.
Joe, I've got a JFK 1967 $50. I'll bet you 50 cents right now that this guy turns out to be, or gal, turns out to be an illegal alien. And that's why it's being slow walked.
Could be. It's as viable a reason as.
50 cents in it for you, buddy.
Say again?
I said there's 50 cents in the bet there for you.
50 cents, and I could use it. It is Christmas time. That is true. But let me finish my thought because we're against the clock, of course. So this suspect in this video, and what authorities say about ongoing threat without filling gaps with speculation? It's just, there's got to be more video. We got to see what this, but to Ted's point, I'm very interested to see who this perpetrator ends up to be.
50 cents,
we have to
man.
take 50 cents on the line here, man. All right, we have to take our mid-show break here on the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000. Lines open and available. 508-871-7000. Back in 2 and 2.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Vicki Graff, and here's your latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. It's a cold and blustery start to the day. It feels like we're below zero this morning, so just make sure you are dressed for that chill. We'll see a lot of sunshine today, highs only in the low 20s. It will stay on the windy side, so it's going to feel like we're in the single digits for most of the day. We're looking at temperatures in the teens overnight. We're back into the 30s for your Tuesday, but we are looking at a late week warm-up with rain on Friday. I'm Vicki Graff, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive, weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Looking for a station that brings you all sides of the story? Tune in to 50,000 watt powerhouse WCRN, where the left and the right meet in the middle. Whether you lean left, lean right, or just want to stay informed, WCRN has you covered with diverse voices, lively debates, and thought-provoking discussions. From politics and health to pop culture, you'll hear it all right here. Radio Central, where opinions from both sides come together for the conversations that matter. From the center of the dial, the center of New England, and the center of information, AM 830 WCRN, Radio Central.
Every person is entitled to 30 fundamental human rights, such as the right to public assembly, education, freedom of expression, right to privacy. And you only need to do one thing to enjoy all 30 of them. Know them. Get your free human rights booklet today. Go to humanrights.com.
Know your human rights, just know your human rights.
All right, folks, welcome back here. Second half of the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. Reminding folks you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And going into the break, we're talking about the Brown University shooting here. And just a couple quick final thoughts on this. Because you got emergency powers and civil liberties, sometimes they're in conflict of each other. In the shelter-in-place orders and the campus lockdowns are legitimate and an active threat. Of course they are. But the constitutional question is how narrowly and long such measures are applied. Some of those students were sheltering in place for overnight, basically, and how authorities communicate clear off-ramps in this situation. And normally we see in an active shooter at a school, usually they clear it a lot quicker because they get somebody in custody fairly soon. But the practical focus is preventing violence. And we do this with access control, rapid alerts, and of course the patrol posture and high visibility. And visibility of police and security presence, that's something I'm going to discuss when we do talk about Bondi Beach in Australia. So you've got all of this while avoiding reflexive policies that treat entire student bodies as suspects as well. But national gun policy arguments immediately started, right? Already emerging. But for on-air clarity here, separate first the criminal act in investigation from two, the broader legislative proposals, and scrutinize claims against what's known about this particular incident. I am so sick of every time that we have a tragedy like this. That's where the conversation goes. It's a ridiculous conversation to have, especially in the wake of something like this about gun control and so forth. Again, any gun laws, they only apply to the law-abiding citizens who follow the gun laws in the first place. And those people, all their guns are registered. They probably belong to the NRA or gun club. They practice safety. And if the legal, law-abiding, and I'm not saying that there has never been, obviously there have been, tragedies done by legally gun owners, or, as we've seen as of late, the family of people who had access to legally owned guns. But you got to go after the behavior, not the weapon. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Lines are open and available. Let's go to the phones. Ken's waiting patiently. Hey, Ken. Happy holidays. What say you?
Hello, Joe. Not so happy for many people.
No. Unfortunately. A lot of family members.
Let me give you what I experienced this weekend. I was blessed with 33 hours with grandchildren from like 11 a.m. Friday till 8 p.m. plus Saturday. So I get home. I knew nothing about first. So you've laid out 4 instances of multiple deaths. And I'm going to suggest to you that the through line for all 4. So I wasn't aware of the Syria. I know a little bit of information. So there may be the same as the other 3, but I know the other 3 have a common through line, period. And I wouldn't be surprised, though, that the first one tipped off the next 3. Do you remember when Charlie Kirk was murdered?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember what happened the following weekend? Remember the church the guy shot up?
Yes.
It's the same type of idea. So here's the point, guys. Folks. I'm not suggesting that there's one person that did Charlie Kirk and then did the Michigan church. No. What I'm saying is we live in a spirit. And some people are just ready to snap. And they see something going on in the world, and it just snowballs. So here's the through line. You have the incident in Syria. Then you had the incident at Brown University. And did you know that the professor of that class was shot first was a Jew and one of the rare conservatives on campus. Did you know that?
I did not know that about the professor, but it okay, that tracks. Yeah, go ahead.
So real quick on Ted's bet, I could take a different side of that bet and we'd both win. I'll leave it at that. Meaning that you'd be foolish enough to take our bets, and I think he could be right, and I think I could be right. I'll leave it at that. So now we move on.
Well, wait a minute. 50 cents is on the line here. I don't see it that we're on opposite sides at all.
Oh, no.
I think what in fact has gone on is an insurgency. This is happening all over the country, to Ken's point.
World, actually.
Yeah.
All over the world.
And I'm particularly concerned with the United States and the fact that our borders have been open to these creeps for 4 years. They're in the country. That's what I call an insurgency, where people get organized and they wait for the clear message and they attack things like communications, electric, and transportation. That's in the book. That's how you do it.
Yeah, and let me just add something to this, because remember the 80s, right? We call it the decade of the spies. Under the Reagan presidency, we arrested more Russian sleeper agents in the decade of the 80s than any other time in the Cold War, hence the term there. And what we have going on today are, in fact, sleeper agents. But here's the difference. The sleeper cells we used to have, the sleeper agents, and even those after 9/11, they were actually very cleverly done in the Cold War era. Backstories. They would go and get IDs of babies who had passed away at birth or shortly after birth, grab that birth certificate, created this identity. This is how the Soviets did it back in the day. But because of the open border and the Biden policies, or the Democratic policies, they could become sleeper agents just simply walking over the border. Clearly, and let's not forget, because I talked about it when it was happening, videos people were taking of people crossing the border during the Biden administration were literally saying, "You don't know who I am now, but you're going to know who I am. Death to America, Islam in every household." They were saying it as they crossed our border, and Border Patrol agents filled out the paperwork for them and paroled them off into the state. So we have tons of sleeper agents, Ken, in the country right now that just waltzed over our border, and we gave them a busted plane ticket or whatever, wherever they wanted to go, with an order to report. They didn't have to create backgrounds and pretend that they were going to school or anything. They just illegally connected or came into the country, and they have ill will from day one. So that's a very different. So we are loaded with sleeper agents, and even people who may not have entered with that intention but have been radicalized or just pushed over the edge, and will take action against the United States interests at any moment. Ken.
So a courageous Jew was killed in others also in Pratt Brown University. It's the same story in Australia. A leader in their nation, a Jew, was likewise the first one taken out in that shooting.
Well, in Australia, at Bondi Beach, the first shots were fired at the Sunset Hanukkah beach activities going on. That was the whole.
With one person in particular shot first.
Yeah.
You're going to hear that story eventually if you search hard.
Yeah.
That's
And we got to say something about if again, from what I'm able to gather in reports, the guy who took down, disarmed the father. It was a father and son team that were doing this shooting, and a Syrian who had gotten Australian citizenship and had a fruit stand of some type was there for the festival. He did this. He took him down. He disarmed him, Guy backed up. He put the gun down because I'm sure he was pretty concerned. Authorities showing up. And here's the thing about there is almost no police presence in Australia. This is the thing. And then a lot of police in Australia aren't actually armed. So the time to respond to this shooting in the Bondi Beach situation, Ken, was a very long time. In every second in an active shooter situation is an eternity to the people being fired at. But this guy he got shot, I think, in the leg and the arm by the son who saw this and fired at him. Fortunately, it wasn't a great shot. But, this guy was just, saw a quick interview in the hospital and so forth. He was just happy, very thankful to the Australian people for letting him become a citizen there and stay in the country. And he did and that was heroic. To tackle an armed man in an active situation like that and disarm him, all the more power to the guy. But yeah, that there was a total anti-Semitic attack on the Jews for the Hanukkah sunset first night of celebration. Absolutely.
And Joe, what's the heritage of Rob Reiner?
Yeah, but I think this is more family from what we, from all the news.
Here is one in which the culprit seems to be clear cut. We hope it's cut and dry and there's no other complications. And I'm not trying to get at the motive. I'm just saying the spirit runs deep, and it's not a coincidence that happened so close to the others.
Yeah, well, more will come out on Reiner. We haven't really got into that situation at all, but they've taken the son into custody. I think he's 32. He's a grown man. But there's a lot of family history, mental illness, drug addiction, and stuff involved in there. So there's probably a lot more to that. We're against the clock. Final word there, Ken?
This is just a start, Joe.
Yeah, I agree 100% on that. Thank you for the call, Ken. Appreciate it. I absolutely, at Thanksgiving, I said to friends of mine, there is going to be some bad things happen between now and Christmas. You just knew it was coming. You could feel it was coming. We're not at peace in the world right now, and it's happening all over. But we have to take our third and final break here. We will come back to the phones on the other side. So Mark in Connecticut, stay through the break. Back in 2 minutes and 2 seconds. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation.
What if your body already knows how to heal? It just needs the right support to do it. Bioregulatory medicine is a total body and mind approach to health that works with your body, not against it. It's a safe, gentle, drug-free, and proven medical model that supports your natural ability to regulate, adapt, regenerate, and heal without side effects. Whether you're seeking to restore health or prevent illness, bioregulatory medicine offers a smarter path forward. Take control of your health with knowledge. Visit brmi.online, home of the Bioregulatory Medicine Institute, a nonprofit global leader offering a powerful free library of trusted resources, articles, podcasts, videos, and more, all at your fingertips. Visit brmi.online. That's brmi.online.
Did you know by age 35, most people start to notice the effects of declining hormone levels? Symptoms include lack of energy, less focus, decreased sex drive, weight gain, and poor quality sleep. Twist 25 DHEA cream helps men and women 35 and up to maintain vitality, youthful vigor, enhanced mood and focus, and a better night's sleep. As a base building block for hormones, DHEA gives the body a key foundation it uses to make hormones. Visit twist25.com to learn more, or call 888-489-4782. 888-4TWIST 25.
The best Italian cuisine served by some of the nicest folks you'll ever meet is at Ziti's Italian Trattoria. It's fine Italian cooking at the Speedway Shopping Center, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro. It's like sitting down with your family for an authentic home-cooked Italian meal. From intimate dinners to catering for events of all sizes. From pizzas and calzones to classic Italian dinners. Every meal at Ziti's is one you'll remember. Head on down to Ziti's, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro.
All right, folks, welcome back here. Fourth final on this Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Hey, don't forget the text line is up and running at 617-297-8388. If you want to use that, you text that like you do anybody else. It appears on the screen right here in the studio in real time and try to work it into the conversation. But let me jump to the phones because Mark down in Connecticut, different Mark than our normal caller, has been waiting patiently on the line. I appreciate that, Mark. Happy holidays to you. And what say you?
Same to you and your family, Joe. Good to talk to you. Thanks for taking the call. Just one item I have, and you've covered all the up-to-date topics. Sunday mornings, I enjoy listening to the Peter Blute Show, but if I'm not mistaken, for the last 3 weeks, it's been the radio replay.
Yes.
Everything okay?
Peter, I don't know if he'll be back this week. I'll be talking to him. He just needed to take a little time to recover for medical, for health reasons. Okay. But it's just his back. It's not like it's nothing. Okay. You know what I'm saying? And as a guy who has serious back issues, I get it. And sometimes you just, he's coming in and he's sitting, quite frankly, in an uncomfortable chair because I'm sitting in it right now for 3 hours. And if you're having spasms and back issues, Mark, you don't want to do it. You want to start, but 20 minutes, 30 minutes into it, you're regretting it. And I think 3 weeks ago, he left the last half hour, the last hour, whatever. And he was going to come in Sunday. That was actually, that was a call the Sunday before, actually. That was a call made like 45 minutes before he was going to come on the air. If he's not in this week, I'll probably sit in for him.
It's great to hear you talk about it, Joe, because I thought it might have been my aftershave.
Yeah. Well, that could be playing a role. I wouldn't totally discount that, Ted.
Well, I'm sorry, the reason I was asking, there was the last live show he did, I think it was in the 10 o'clock hour. There was an accusation made, not by him, by Jimmy from Worcester, about two of the callers, Mark from Worcester and Ken from New Hampshire. And I couldn't believe it when I heard it, and I just, I wanted to talk to Peter about it. I said, hey, how can this happen? How can this guy come on the air and just say something?
Can you fill me in what it was? Because I didn't hear.
Yeah, he accused them of both being pedophiles.
Wait a minute, accused who?
Mark and Ken.
Jimmy accused Mark and Ken of being pedophiles?
Yes.
That's crazy.
I think it was the 10 o'clock hour. If you go back and listen to the last show, it had to be.
On what basis, Mark? Did he give any frame for this or context?
It's over 3 weeks. I can't remember how it started. The normal thing about Trump. There's always Trump. And then he accused those guys. And, Ken is a great caller. Same with Mark. I enjoyed both of them.
Well, let me do this on behalf of the station to Ken and Mark. Apologize if that got said and didn't get, addressed at the time.
Yeah, I wanted. That's why I was itching to call him, but he hasn't been in. So that's why I called. Yeah. Anyhow, that's all I got, and I enjoy your show and the Sunday morning show. So keep it up.
All right, Mark. Hey, I appreciate it, man. Enjoy the Christmas holiday and Happy New Year. In case I don't talk
Mark,
to you.
Mark, I promise to change aftershave.
Yeah.
We'll close the door to the studio.
All right, hey guys, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, man. Take care.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
So I appreciate that. Again, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Lines are open and available. So we've got the Brown thing. We've got the Hanukkah attack. So we didn't get into all the details of this, but you pretty much know the story. In the Bondi Beach, 11 people, tragedy. I mean, the fact that the Syrian, now Australian citizen, did what he did, that's absolutely fantastic. It's amazing. But I've always maintained the best thing to stop a bad person with a gun is a good person with a gun. And Australia has disarmed their citizenship, has actually even disarmed a lot of their police. And this is the one recurring thing, not that I've been to Sydney anytime lately, but everybody who does frequent Sydney and parts of Australia says it's an amazing lack of police presence, which usually means one of two things. It's an incredibly safe place, like parts of Switzerland and Sweden used to be, where they didn't, and even at one time, Bobbies or London police officer, Metro as they call it there, didn't carry weapons. They do on a regular basis now, but there are still police in London who are not armed.
Yeah, the average copper
Is not
armed. It's
and that's why they actually, and that's why they actually will, when they are confronting somebody, they will say armed police response to give the people an understanding that we have a gun too. And this goes way back when I was a kid. My father was the secretary of the International Police Association for New England. And we had this exchange program where police would go and stay with police in other countries. And in my childhood, this Lionel and Daphne, and he was an English Bobby, and they would come and they stayed with us, and they ended up coming back a couple times over my childhood. And they became good friends with my parents. And I remember a young guy, young kid, listening to Lionel talk, because my father, they would talk and exchange police, what it was like and how they dealt with things. And my father, of course, was trying to digest the fact that this guy walked the beats of London with nothing but a bobby stick that was maybe a couple feet and no weapon whatsoever. And of course, my dad, well, what do you do if you have an armed suspect or something? Well, we call for a marksman. We call and they come. And my father, well, what does he show up with? Right? He's thinking he's like a 38, but Lionel then did proceed to show my father just how well they are trained to use that nightstick. Because there's the tactic of going down between the legs, turning and pulling up with the scruff of the neck. You basically have complete control of that person. So they're very good at, without a gun, they're very good at being able to handle themselves. But nothing is going to prepare you to handle a bullet coming at you. So even that's around. Yeah, Ted.
Joe, with all deference to your experience with police, let me ask you a very pointed question, because this has everything to do with the Bondi Beach incident.
Mm-hmm.
If you are an unarmed police officer patrolling a party and you're asked to go after an armed suspect, what kind of person is going to throw a bobby stick from 30 feet?
You're not going to, first of all,
have an impact.
Yeah, they're never going to throw the bobby stick, because if you throw it, now you're totally unarmed. But they're not expected to. That was the thing, at least in that time, because that was obviously a question. Well, what do you do? They take shelter and they wait for the armed police officer to show up, which means all the civilians are at great risk at that time. But even fast forward to today, we've got, between the cartels and the gangs, a lot of those bad actors are better equipped than the average police officer. And now they've also got body armor. Body armor is extremely accessible today to anybody. For crying out loud, you can buy a backpack for your kid that is Kevlar, so that if they find themselves in a school shooting, at least they have some kind of protection by putting the knapsack in front of them.
At yard sales and pawn shops.
Yeah, it's crazy. Look, this Bondi Beach Sydney attack lands amid a documented surge in anti-Semitic threats, vandalism, harassment, violence in Australia, with Jewish community security groups and Jewish communal bodies reporting historically elevated incident totals in the past year. Now, there's always been this, right? But I mean, it really, when we had October 7th over a year ago, that horrific incident. And that in itself, that day, that incident, that attack on the Jewish people on their homeland that day was bad enough. But the insult to that injury was the response, the incredible ignorance and hatred that just swept through this country with how Jewish students were treated on universities, Jewish people were treated on the street. And then the amount of ignorant people who were starting with this Palestine, free Palestine, exactly free them from what? If you don't follow that up with free them from Hamas, you're absolutely clueless because you don't understand what the situation is. Hamas took control of there. The Jewish people gave the Gaza Strip to the Palestinians. And that's the thing when you see these college kids who just absolutely don't know what the hell they're talking about. Free Palestine from what? They actually think what is now Israel was the state of Palestine at one time. Palestine's never had a state. It's a people. It's not a country. So it's just amazing how they were treated. And then, of course, don't even get me on the queers for Palestine. Or gays for Palestine, even women for Palestine. Do you even understand what you're saying? It's amazing. But we saw this response that was dumbfounding. We've talked about it on the show over and over again. In the message that is being heard loud and clear by the Australian people now, in Netanyahu said it, you have done nothing for the anti-Semitism and the Jew hatred that has been going on in your country. You've ignored it and you haven't addressed it. And now you're dealing with it and you have to deal with this. And they claim that they will deal with anti-Semitism in Australia, but we need to deal with that on the United States as well, folks. But we're going to wrap up the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. I am Joe Mangiacotti, and this will do it for me today. I'll be back tomorrow, 1 o'clock here, same bat time, same bat channel. So, hey, stick with us here for great more programming on WCRN. Joe out.